Bear down, Chicago Bears. We got a message from Bojack himself thanking Bears Nation. We've got some updates here. Montez Sweat, although he's not a fan of the Justin Fields trade, what he basically said was that he really liked that Justin Fields was a leader, et cetera, all the standard stuff. But the important part was not really that. That's called clickbait for those of you that don't know. What he did say was, I am not losing to the Packers this year, which is a big, that's a big statement. We got a couple from Ryan Poles as well, talking about developing quarterbacks. And he was asked a fair question by Pat McAfee, I want to say, about, it's been 85 years since the Bears have successfully developed a quarterback. So, I mean, what are we really doing here in Chicago? And it's going to be an interesting answer. We're going to go over that. Then we've got, there's a lot of talk right now of trades coming at the 9 position, that the jury's still out on what's going to happen. Are the Bears going to make a trade at number 9, move down and get some more picks? Or are the Bears going to take somebody at number 9 that they think is a game changer that's going to change the dynamic of the team? Mel Kiper came in with his final draft analysis, and he picked. I'm not really. You know what? We're going to get into it. A Mel Kiper for his part of it. Mel Kiper. Let's just do that. But let's get into it. Vizzo Joe has a question here. What is the over under? How long will Fields fans be crying Poles traded him? Until we get a big win. I mean, that's basically what it's going to be. It depends on how the season lines up. Last year, Green Bay was the first game. That was the opportunity. That was the big moment, and it didn't work out to its best advantage. So, but I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say. As a matter of fact, Montez Sweat, during the interview, they as they were talking about the Justin Fields move, he said, no matter who the next pick is, and he's like, come on, man, you know who it is. I mean, we all know that it's going to be Caleb Williams. How long are Justin Fields fans going to be complaining? I don't think it's going to be long. I think that Caleb Williams is going to show. Look, and by the way, there's some fans that you're not going to play. As a matter of fact, let me point this out. In fact, there are people that will never support Caleb Williams, no matter what. We've got at 007 Adam 2568, whatever that means. He puts top quarterbacks in the draft, and he puts an apostrophe after the QB. So this is going to be funny, right? And what does he do? Number 1, Drake May. Number 2, J.J. McCarthy. Something about Drake May and J.J. McCarthy. Something about them something similar about them. Then you have Michael Penix Jr. as a tie with J.J. McCarthy for the second overall quarterback. And the number 3 quarterback is Caleb Williams. And the number 4 quarterback overall, because, J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix are like 2A and 2B. And then Bo Nix. For some reason, there's something about there's something I don't know. There is something. But for some reason, this guy thinks that Drake May and JJ McCarthy are better than Caleb Williams. And I know what he's gonna say. Well, Caleb Williams, remember that Notre Dame game? You know what I mean? It's just gonna be there's something about, so anyway, let's get into Bojack here. We do have a statement, and I'm going to read it for you guys. I know you've probably seen it. You've probably seen it on social media, but from Bojack. Wow, what a journey. It's become 7 seasons in Chicago. It's hard to believe how quickly time flies. To each and every one of you in the Bears family, thank you. Your passion, your loyalty is what makes this city special. I owe a debt of gratitude to the Bears. Guess I should have done it on the right side. Organization, the coaches, and my teammates. You've been more than just colleagues. You've been my family, pushing me to be the best every single day. To the fans, you're the heartbeat of Soldier Field, and it's an absolute privilege to play for you. To the McCaskey family, thank you for giving me the chance to wear the orange and navy blue. Running out onto Soldier Field as the team captain of the Bears will forever be etched in my memory. As I turn the page on this chapter, I take with me the spirit of Chicago. A part of me will always remain in the Windy City. And that is from Bojack himself. And salute to salute to Eddie Jackson. I hope that he gets picked up by a good team. I hope that we see him again very soon on the opposing side, and I hope he has a long and successful career. Certainly got paid pretty well. Wish it would have worked out, by the way. I do want to say that. I do wish it would have worked out. So let's start off with comments here real quick. We have Patriot Watch USA. JF1s is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Not sure why folks don't see that. Years of abuse being a Bears fan, I guess. And it's not that really. It's not that he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's been a starting quarterback in the NFL because there are only 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And if he's one of the best 32 guys, then even if he's not great, he's still going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL if he's better than all of the rest. So even at number 32, you're still a starting NFL quarterback. But it's fair to have that assessment. Since nobody cares what Sweat thought about the JF19 trade, your show should be on how the Bears could sign CW today if they wanted and don't need to wait for the draft to draft him. And that, by the way, is true, but it hasn't been something that's been picked up by local media, hasn't been something that people are losing their minds about. But what are people losing their minds about? They are still losing their minds about Justin Fields not being here. So, and by the way, when you do that, it makes you say wild shit like, "Oh, Drake May and JJ McCarthy are better, and so is Michael Penix Jr." I'm not having no guy in a dress with pink fingernails and a pink phone, or however he talks. I just assume he talks like that, but you know, you never know. Anyway, we got Lord Crimson in the house. No surprise, the locker room was all in on Justin Fields as a quarterback. Exactly what I was saying. People don't understand the football, don't get it. What's the over under and how long Fields fan? I think we already answered that laughingly. Mel Kiper, you got that right. The Bears are going to take a blue player at 9. If Neighbors is there, I could see that, or it will be a defensive end or offensive lineman, which I do think that's probably that's probably true. I think that I would like to see probably a trade down, but I really don't know that we're going to get too much value. So it's going to be, I think one of those things at number 9 where you're just kind of guessing at this point, like, what is that next move? What if Joe Alt? What if what? Let's do what we're going to do that. We're going to pop in and do a draft with that. Let's get through the news real quick. Probably going to depend on the Caleb does and how lesser degree how Fields does. He got to week 4 rookie growing pains. I don't think he's going to have the typical rookie growing pains. I think he's going to have them, but I think that this team should be fair to say this team is going to go out of its way to minimize rookie growing pains for Caleb Williams. They're going to go out of their way to make sure that it's minimized as much as possible. And what does that mean? I think it means that we'll see a little bit more running than we would normally see out of a Shane Waldron offense when we lead off. But very quickly, we're going to see this team kind of unload and really start to short passing. I think we're going to start off with more of a West Coast sort of offense. We're going to have a short passing game, which is why DeAndre Swift, a guy like that, was very important. Route runners like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are very important, and Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet. I mean, you have a lot of receivers who can get open in short space That's what you're looking for a young quarterback. So I think they're going to try to eliminate most of the problems that there might be, if you will. I think they're going to eliminate some of the necessity for those growing pains. My opinion, and for what it's worth. So anyway, let's move on from Bojack and let's get into Montez Sweat, who this is what he really said and what really, really mattered. He said, "I'm not losing to the Packers in 2024." During an interview with Chris Long, actually a pretty good interview, it's about 30 minutes long. The Bears' newest defensive star proved this week that he is the most important part of playing in Chicago, hating the Green Bay Packers. He says, "I'm letting you know right now, man, I'm not losing to Green Bay this year. I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I'm not losing to Green Bay this year." This man has been playing a grand total of 9 games in Chicago, only one against Green Bay, and he already has beef with the neighbors up north. Be still our beating hearts. Of course, if the Bears are going to do that, the defense will need to be a whole lot better at harassing Jordan Love than they did in either of the games against Green Bay this season. In fact, the Week 17 game Sweat played in saw the Bears pressure Love just 4 times in the entire game and sack him only once. But an improved overall unit, including a better offense, could bring Sweat's vision to reality. And by the way, it should be noted that that's most likely the case here. This is a team that could not score for the life of it going into the end of the season, even though, look, we saw improvement from Justin Fields, but it just wasn't enough, right? We saw 9 points, 3 field goals in a game where you're not getting pressure on Jordan Love, but they're only scoring 17 points. This was a simple game to win. Just like Cleveland was a simple game to win. All you have to do is Robert Tonyan, don't drop the ball. Darnell Mooney, don't drop the ball. You know what I mean? When you need people to come through, they come through. Well, this team looks like it's built for that. It looks like it's built for a team coming through, if you will. So we'll see how it goes, but I think this is a much improved team. So fingers crossed, I guess. Speaking of which, the 27-year-old fully expects the Bears to draft Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick. And his advice to him was, be yourself. Don't try to do it all by yourself. You got a great group of guys around you, a great group of guys. That is absolutely wild. Yeah. I know you've seen the pieces. Keenan Allen, Swift from Philly. We got some guys around him. He's obviously a talented guy. Just don't try to do it all in one night. That's the beautiful thing about what the Bears have done in creating the situation for Williams. He won't have to do it overnight or by himself. Important part, though, Montez Sweat just told you guys, I am not losing to Green Bay in 2024. FUGB. So, now, there is some this is a conversation that was had with Pat McAfee, okay? Ryan Poles showed up, and this is the question that was asked. Why haven't the Bears been able to draft and develop a franchise quarterback in the past 85 years? And Poles said, that's actually a good question. The most interested in the answer is, of course, going to be Caleb Williams, because he's expected to be that guy. And I mean, let's face facts. That does look to be the guy. But the last quarterback the Bears drafted in the first round and developed into an All-Pro, that was Sid Luckman. And since the NFL, and he was, by the way, the second overall pick in 1939. So since the NFL and AFL merged in 66, the Bears have selected 6 quarterbacks in the first round. Those quarterbacks have combined for 0 selections to all-pro teams and 2 Pro Bowls during their time in Chicago. And those were Jim McMahon, Jim Harbaugh, Cade McNown, Rex Grossman, Mitch Trubisky, and Justin Fields. 2 of those quarterbacks helped achieve team success, but with tons of help. Jim McMahon won Super Bowl 20 after perhaps the greatest defense ever assembled, and one of the greatest running backs, Walter Payton, still performing at his peak. And Rex Grossman, number 22 pick in 2003, reached Super Bowl, God damn it, was it 41? XL1. 41 with the 3rd best scoring defense that season. Part of the problem, poll said was rooted in poor evaluation of prospects. Justin Fields, who was taken number 11 in 2021, was the latest first round quarterback who didn't pan out with the Bears. He was traded in March to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a conditional 6th-round pick, and he's expected to back up Russell Wilson. The Steelers made room for Fields by cutting Mitchell Trubisky, the number 2 pick for the Bears in 2017. If Williams joins the Bears, he will be followed in the footsteps of Grossman, Trubisky, Fields, or will he end up becoming an embarrassing reference to Sid Luckman as the Bears' last franchise quarterback? We asked 11 coaches and 2 general managers what they thought. And the Bears said they might want to pay attention to this. And by the way, here's the funny time. The funny piece to this is, who should you be asking about this? Which you should be asking Shane Waldron, what he thinks about this. You should be asking the team. But instead, what we're asking for is we're asking Brian Callahan, Tennessee Titans head coach. And he says, I think the starting point is always going to be, how do you help their decision-making? How do you develop the timing in the passing game? And then how do you help them develop their accuracy? And it has to do with their feet, what that footwork looks like. Nick Caserio, Houston general manager, says anytime you have continuity from one year to the next, it's important because at least it gives you a foundation in place. The team is going to be different. The opponents are going to be different. So there's going to be a lot of things that are different, but to be able to keep a number of things at least similar to the same, hopefully will be beneficial. So let's take a moment here. And what is it going to look like for the Chicago Bears if that is the case? Well, in fact, I have that answer for you because we can skip together to this. The differences on the team are going to be DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, and Gerald Everett. Everything else is going to be pretty much the same. So now the other part to that, I guess, in fairness, would be that we're running probably not a 3 wide receiver set. We're probably running a 2 and 2 with a tight end. So there is a difference here that and I guess Ryan Bates. So over half of this team is going to be consistent. Caleb Williams, of course, is the outlier, but we're talking about at this point, what talent are we putting around him? And then that continuity. Does the continuity, and I'm going to say I think the answer to this is yes, but does the continuity of Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins working together for another season make them better? I think so. Nate Davis and Darnell Wright, I think so. Nate Davis, obviously a little distracted last year. Braxton Jones on the injured reserve until mid-season, I want to say. So there's probably this isn't a high school football team. They are paid millions of dollars and professionals. Yeah, that's not so what? I mean, you're paid $1 million to do your job. I mean, and your job is to play on the field. You cannot like things in the locker room and still get paid millions of dollars. So there are plenty of people that's not true for. That's just what you want it to be. It's just not that way. In fact, there are people out here that really don't care about some of those things. And one person taken away, does it destroy a locker room? No, because there's always going to be leadership that steps up. But when you take away an important piece, then it does create a strain on relationships inside that locker room. And it does create a strain on trust with management in that locker room if the players are not given what they feel they need for success. And you don't have to like it for it to be true, but it will still be true. And yes, they are professional, but they're only professional because they were good athletes, not because they're rocket scientists and brain surgeons. We're not saying that these are the smartest people on the planet who understand consequences of everything that they do. These are well-paid millionaire athletes who, by the way, got pushed through college in many instances. Not that everybody's there is a dummy, of course. They're college graduates for the most part. But by the same token, no, just because they make millions of dollars doesn't make them better people. Just because they're paid millions of dollars. Look, if you're paid millions of dollars and you're really good at your job, somebody else is going to pay you millions of dollars. If one person, if one team decides that, we're not going to pay this guy anymore, we don't want him anymore. Well, if you're good, you're going to get signed somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. And You know what I mean? It makes things difficult. And by the way, it should be when we talk about that professionalism, you are right. You should be more professional in it, but at the same token, if the team is professional and they give the players what they want and need to succeed, well, then the answer to some of these changes might not be the same. And here's the end result of this is going to depend on Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams comes in and he's not who we think he is, and he becomes some sort of prima donna, I don't see that. I don't think that he really is. I actually think he's going to be a pretty good guy. But if he doesn't come in and be that guy that we want him to be, then it will be chaos. Now, can they move past it? Of course. Will there be strife and will there be problems? Yes, there are all the time. And by the way, we can go back and we can look at a lot of different statistics, like what happens when you remove this piece of a team. What was the end result? And you can find as much positive as you can find negative. So it really is not as much of an issue. But let's move on here. Brian Gutekunst of the Green Bay Packers, Gutekunst, the Kunst guy. He says that great coaches, the players, Rodgers and Love, obviously themselves, but those guys got to learn from some pretty good players as well. I think it's important part is to sit behind a guy that does it at a very high level, prepares at a very high level. Well, this guy's just telling you this guy's just telling you that you should have like a quarterback on the roster doing it so that Caleb Williams can watch. Well, that's not going to work. So Brian, kiss my ass. Matt LaFleur, same thing, stupid. Mike McDaniel says, you know what? It doesn't really matter what these guys are saying. What matters is what the Bears are thinking. And really, they're all talking about the difficulty in evaluating the position and what you need to do. What they need to do, look at what we have right there. We have DJ Moore, we have Keenan Allen, we have Cole Kmet, we have Gerald Everett, we have DeAndre Swift. We have everything that Caleb Williams needs in order to be successful in the NFL. If he's not successful, it will not be because the Chicago Bears did not give him every opportunity. You are giving him, you are gift wrapping him for, let's just say, three elite level receivers, and then Cole Kmet, which I don't know if he approaches elite yet, but he's pretty damn good. So, but you, in this context here, you have three elite receivers, and then you have DeAndre Swift, who had, I think, 50 receptions coming out of the backfield last year. Like, this matches up with exactly what this team wants to be and what they want to do. So you have it right in front of you. And you've got the consistency, or at least you should have some consistency on that line, as 4 of 5 of these guys are returning um, uh, for another season. And Matt Pryor becomes, I think, a better option than Larry Borum on the line, especially at the tackles position. So in case something happens, I think we have an upgrade to Larry Borum. So um, I think that, and by the way, we might not start out of the gate. And I think that it's important to recognize here, last season we were not ready to perform. We were not ready out of the gate. That was very embarrassing. I don't know how you guys felt, but in that Packers game, when it felt like at the very beginning, we were going to be competitive, right? And then it all just fell apart. And the defense wasn't very good, and we saw that for the first 6-7 weeks. The just defense was not very good. The offense was not very good. Everything was disjointed. It didn't look like they had enough practice time. It didn't look like they had enough time playing together. Everything looked wrong. And then in the second half of the season, that all changed. But that first half of the season still counts. So here we are. It was very clear that this team was not ready to perform. Now the question is, will this team be ready this season? And I want to say, the positive smile guy in me says, well, obviously it's got to be, because it can't be any worse than it was to start off last year. How can you be that unprepared? When you look at something and you're that unprepared, it's got to be coaching, right? It can't be that the players were not, like the players are athletes who make a pretty good living playing a sport that they love or like. They should be ready to perform. But for all of it to come together and turn into a cohesive unit, I think that really takes coaching. So I really think that this team has got to hit the ground running. If they don't hit the ground running, that's a wrap on Matt Eberflus. The end. You cannot have a guy who gets in here and allows a team to not be ready for success. Because if you're not ready for success, you're doomed to fail. Right? We all know that. We all played football. We all understand the concept here. You have to be ready to win, and if you're not ready to win, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So I think that this team is going to be. I think his team is going to be ready. You know what I mean? I think that it's going to be ready, but I don't know. You know. Anyway, let's get back to it. Also, there was a question right now of potential trade down partners. Now, I haven't seen this, but let's consider that 9 selection again. They only have 4 selections, and who are the quarterback seekers? So here's a question right now. The quarterback seekers are going to be Minnesota, Denver, and Las Vegas. So it is potential to see that some of these guys move up into this top 8, top 7 to get a quarterback. So we know that Minnesota is looking for a quarterback. We know that Denver is looking for. By the way, what do we do? Fair question here. What do we do if we select Caleb Williams at number 1? Minnesota selects JJ McCarthy at number 5 or number 6, and they win more games than us. And JJ McCarthy looks like superstar, and Caleb Williams ends up struggling. We have to remember that there could be some kind of silly scenario where it just doesn't work right. You know what I mean? And by the way, guys, I mean, look, I don't like this answer, but it's not wrong. And Ryan Poles said as much. We just ran out of runway. We ran out of the spot. Look, we have too much opportunity to, in our opinion, at least make a sideways move, if not an upgrade, clearly, in Caleb Williams over Justin Fields. Now, when you look at the college stats, then you know that they are at least equal or close to equal. But Justin Fields is going to cost 25 million and then 40 million. That's 70 something million dollars that you have to put up for a quarterback, where you can just go with Caleb Williams for 3 years at 27 million. It's a no-brainer at this point when you look at it financially. And you know, if look, and here's the point, you know, here's the point that everybody should understand. If Justin Fields won that Cleveland game, and look, you can say Robert Tonyan, and it's true. You can say Darnell Mooney, and that's true. But you have to make enough plays to win. And he did not make enough plays to win. That's what it really is. And then if you win the Denver game, you know what I mean? Like if you win just a couple of these games, then that changes. And Justin Fields becomes the guy that you have to hold on to and you have to keep. You make the playoffs, and maybe you look at Justin Fields as the guy that you have to keep. But he didn't do any of that. You know, when it came down to it, he had a 53.4 quarterback rating in the fourth quarter. And could it be Luke Getsy's fault for not understanding? Sure. It doesn't matter. The point is the amount of money that you have to pay to this guy is now exorbitant compared to what you could get from a brand new quarterback. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what about, you know, this is the best quarterback evaluated in the last 10 to 12 years in coming out of college in Caleb Williams. So why would you pass on this guy if you have the opportunity and you have a clear lane to get him at way less than you would have to pay your current quarterback? I mean, why wouldn't you make the change? Like, I don't like it, but I mean, you know, here we are. And Eberflus caused more than 3 losses. However, I don't fault him completely. It really took. This is a rebuilding process. Like, guys, we want to win right now, but the rebuilding process still has to take place. We're looking right now at a roster. I mean, look, it's not. This is not that complicated, really. If we look at Um, this is the defense that we have. Okay. With Montez Sweat, everything's pretty much the same except Kevin Byard and Montez Sweat. Okay. Justin Jones is going to be gone. Gervon Dexter is going to step up. But I mean, look, this is the same team almost that we brought to the field last season, and it was not enough. So we haven't made any changes, but we were still the number one rushing defense. That's the important part. We were still the number one rushing defense. And if this secondary is just a little bit better, remember, this was the number one scoring defense for the last 6 games of the season. Those last 6 games of the season, that included Denver. I mean, that included Detroit. That included Green Bay. That included some good teams out here. That did not include like garbage opponents. And the number one defense out here was Cleveland last year. So we played a tough schedule to end the season, and we're the number one defense. So if we're running it back with virtually the same defense, then we're going to be a better team. So you know what I'm saying? And Crimson asked a great question, and as a matter of fact, you can go back and you can look at all of my content from the beginning. Maddie and I used to talk about this constantly. That I don't think that the Bears are going to be a good team to start the season. In the second half of the season, they were going to get better, and then in the next season coming up, the Bears are going to be a phenomenal team, and it's going to follow that Philadelphia thing. Now, look, you can, by the way, and you can parse and you can pull apart every piece of Philadelphia. Well, he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not blah 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 blah. I'm not saying it's a perfect match. What I'm saying is you're going to have a good defense. Defense is going to win championships, right? So you've got a great situation here on the defense, comparatively speaking. Now, is it the return of the monsters of the Midway? I don't think so. I don't think we're there yet. We really need an edge rusher that can really get after it. And I don't like Tremaine Edwards as much as I want to like Tremaine Edwards as that Mike. I would prefer somebody who just really seems like more of a ball hawk. I think, by the way, Tremaine Edmonds, great player. But it's very difficult to replace Brian Urlacher or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Or Dick Butkus. It's very difficult to replace some of these old guys, especially in memory, when you see them make these fantastic and crazy ass plays. It's very difficult to replace a Lance Briggs. You know what I mean? These guys do the best that they can, but yeah, we're not exactly there. But this is still the number one rushing defense last season and the number one scoring defense for the last 6 games of the season. And look, it's a small sample, but it still matters. So this team's going to be way better this coming season. And the question is, does it translate to more wins? Well, that's going to be on the offense because the offense, this was the weak link. This was the problem. The offense, we couldn't get the ball to the receivers. Now, Caleb Williams is better at getting the ball to receivers than Justin Fields. End of story. And we can look at the tape and we can see that. And look, Justin Fields had a great season at Ohio State. And I think his season was arguably better than when Caleb Williams won the Heisman. I think when you look at it, you can say Justin Fields had a better season, but he also didn't have nearly the amount of games. He got injured in his junior season, I want to say, and he was on the bench for part of his freshman season. So he had one really, really fantastic season. Then he got injured. Then he came to the NFL. So the sample size of play is not as good as you would like to see out of somebody, but it is for Caleb Williams. Like you've got 3 seasons, 3 full seasons of him starting and doing crazy good stuff. I think that this guy is legit. So what I mean? Like I think that there was some opportunity here that you just can't pass up if you're the Bears. You just cannot pass this up because the guy does show things that others don't. He's got the sidearm. He's got the top. He's got all of the pieces that you want in place to make it in the NFL. Now the question is, does he have the mental makeup to make it in the NFL? And we don't know the answer to that. That's going to be something that we're going to find out over time. Okay, it's okay. And here's the other part, right? The other part is the question would be, is he an upgrade for Justin Fields? It is possible that Justin Fields gets his shit together and becomes a good player in Pittsburgh. I think he's a good player already. Is he a great player? No, he wasn't a great player. He was a good player. And we needed somebody who was better than him, that could make the throws that he was just not making. We needed somebody more equipped. By the way, Luke Getsy would have done fantastic with Caleb Williams, because Caleb Williams is the type of player that the NFL is looking for. He's the guy who has the ability to drop back and make all of those plays and not run. Justin Fields ran too much. I think Justin Fields had 1,173 yards rushing, not last year, but the year before. So calming him down just a little bit. We all saw the talent. We all saw the ability, but calming him down just a little bit. I mean, what we ended up with was a 7-10 record, and we couldn't score when it mattered. And we turned the ball over in the fourth quarter way too much when we needed somebody to step up. He wasn't there. He didn't step up. I mean, we do have to acknowledge that Justin Fields did not light it on fire when he needed to. And Black Rain says DJ had a career year, make big throws. Sure, but he's the only person. You can't just throw the ball to one receiver. Cole Kmet had an okay year. I think he had 66 receptions, but Darnell Mooney only had 38. I mean, your part-time running back had more receptions than your Z receiver. And by the way, Darnell Mooney is the same guy who had 80 receptions for 1,100 yards the year before. So something was different. Something was not. He wasn't moving the ball around. It just didn't work. It's okay. It's okay that it didn't work. The Bears are going to be a better team because of this. Do I think? Do I think that Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields? I think the prospect of him is better than Justin Fields, and that 4 years from now, Caleb Williams will be better than Justin Fields. And by the way, I do want to say this. I'm not saying this because it's a shot at Justin Fields. Justin Fields didn't have the support that he needed to be successful in the NFL with the Chicago Bears. Even Ryan Poles acknowledged it. Even if people in chat don't like that fact, they all felt like Justin Fields had something special. They just were unable to tap it, and they were unable to give him the support that he needed in order to develop at a pace that he was comfortable with. And look, that may not be the NFL, and he may never be a star in the NFL. I think that he will be, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea how Justin Fields is going to do long term in the NFL, but I do know that Caleb Williams more represents what you're looking for in an NFL type quarterback: faster decision making, the ability to throw from all angles, a cannon for an arm. Is it as strong as Justin Fields? I don't think so, but it's pretty damn strong. And he's elusive. He stays in the pocket. He continues to look downfield. He's not looking for reasons to run. He's looking for reasons to pass. He's looking to keep plays alive. He's looking to make smart decisions. And guess what? He does make pretty good decisions. And what he doesn't do great, you can coach him to do better. So that's simple. You know what I mean? And you have to remember, like, one of the things that were frustrating for all of us, and you saw it on the field, but you don't acknowledge it when you're supporting Justin Fields too much. Justin Fields did not give people the opportunity to get open. Justin Fields threw two players when they were open. That's why he processed things at a slower rate than some of these other guys. 3.23 seconds is an enormous amount of time to be in the pocket. Again, when you look at Patrick Mahomes did have a big time frame and did take longer sometimes than Justin Fields, but overall in the fourth quarter, 2.4 seconds. That's Patrick Mahomes. I looked this up the other day. Patrick Mahomes' rate in the fourth quarter, 2.4 seconds, which means that when the going gets tough, he gets going. Justin Fields, on the other hand, 3.3. He did not. And he ended up getting sacked a lot. I mean, it's simple, guys. It's really simple. You may not like it. I don't like it, but the math is still the math. So even if I hate the math, anyway, so let's get into it. Let's close this out. There was a couple things, by the way, before we get to this. Let's hear it on the X, because there were a couple of things that came up on Twitter. First and foremost, in Mel Kiper's final mock draft, he has the Bears taking Caleb Williams and then Rome Odunze at number 9. Also, by the way, let's not forget what happened to the Chicago Bears. This is, I wonder. Also, then we have Adam S here, superstar, just just laying it out here. Drake May and JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix before Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix. And then also, finally, if you guys are interested in Crown Point, Indiana, this weekend, you can go see Darnell Wright himself. April 14, he will be at FYSC Storefront, 166 Southwest Street from 1 to 2 p.m. You can get an exclusive autograph from Darnell Wright if you're interested. And the tickets are available at foreveryoungsportscards.com. I'm not paid, by the way, to promote this. It's nothing to do with me or the channel. Just if you guys are interested, he's going to be there. So as for the draft was Caleb Williams at number 1, number 9, Joe Alt he fell right into my range right there, which made it difficult. I went into this draft, by the way, looking to trade down from the number 9. That my move here was to move down from the number 9 in order to gain more draft capital, but there was no way to reasonably do that when you have Caleb Williams and you have Joe Alt at number 9. First of all, these are two of the, I want to say, 4 best players in this draft. So, if you assume Caleb Williams is the number 1 guy, I do not. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the number 1 guy, but I think Caleb Williams is number 2. And Joe Alt, well, according to a lot of people, Drake May is going to be number 2 or number 3, and then Joe Alt's going to come in right behind him. So you're getting the two of the 4 best players at the 1 and the 9 right there. That changed my draft dramatically from that point. And then I moved down to number 75, and I traded down on 75 because I needed more players and I needed more bodies coming in. So number 108, defensive tackle, McKinley Jackson. Number 129, Mason McCormick. Number 150, Jonah Ellis. Jonah Ellis, by the way, does seem like he actually rates out pretty well as an edge rusher. So this actually, I don't think this was great, but this was actually better than I thought it was going to be. Then Keith Randolph, another defensive tackle coming out of Illinois, not Johnny Newton, but hey, he played right next to him, so maybe something good's happening. And then Hunter Norzad, the center from Penn State. So did I fix everything? No. Did I fix some things? Kinda. I think in this context here, we've got 2 starters for sure, in Caleb Williams and Joe Alt. And then McKinley Jackson, I don't think that he's a starter, but I think he's a good relief guy. And if he develops as well as Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens have so far, then of course he is or can be a starter in this league and might even push for that to happen. Then we got Mason McCormick. And by the way, I took Mason McCormick and I took Hunter Norzad because no matter what you think right now, we are not deep enough at these tight positions. We have 2 centers on the roster. Ryan Bates kind of took over for Cody White here, but he's going to be the starting center. So we've got Coleman Shelton, who's a backup center and potentially a guard. By the way, Coleman Shelton is basically interchangeable with Cody White here. I went and I looked it up, and he started 3 games at center, did a great job, but he also played a lot of guard. So we have these interchangeable pieces in the interior, but we're going to need to get more specific people. Hunter Norzad, another center, and Coleman Shelton's only on a 1-year contract. So we still need depth at these positions, and that's where we're going to win, is in the trenches, no matter what anyway. So we have an offensive tackle, defensive tackle, an offensive guard, another defensive tackle, and a center. And then Jonah Ellis. Again, Jonah Ellis, I think, rated as the 10th best defensive edge rusher in this. And Pepe Sylvia says, I don't trust Nate Davis to stay healthy. He was, you know what? And by the way, even though he did have a subpar for him season, he actually didn't have a horrible season. And he had a lot of real life stuff that was going on to him. So not in his favor. So we'll see how this all plays out. I mean, you never know. But I think he's going to be better. I think the team's going to be better. I think everything's going to be, improved. And it's not about Ryan Bates, not about Coleman Shelton at that center position. It's about, Lucas Patrick and Dan Feeney were not enough. Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton are going to be a better option. And we'll see whether or not these guys hold up very well. It could be, by the way, if we were to take, you know what, as a matter of fact, let's take a quick stab here just to give you guys an idea of how this would look. If we were to make a move, and we're just going to go with a kind of a fast draft here, and we're just going to assume number one that we're taking Caleb Williams at number one. But we get to the number 9 pick, and when you look at it right here, you can see here in the background, I've got Olu Fashanu, I've got Brock Bowers, I've got Terrion Arnold, I've got Latu, Talise Fuaga, Jared Verse. I've got a lot of people available for that number 9. But what I think we're looking at right here is, what options do I get here for additional draft capital, and how close to that position can I get? Well, if I just do that, and I say just as close to that position as I can get to number 14 for New Orleans. So let's take that right there. And now I've got the number 14 pick. Now I'm going to trade that into 14 to number 19, or can I trade it to something else? I don't think so. I think this is the best one. So let's take that. All right, so now I'm at the 19 position, and I'm going to reject everything else there. Now I've got Jackson Powers Johnson on my radar. Now I've solved your offensive center problem for anybody who had a problem at the center. So at this point, we now have Caleb Williams and Jackson Powers Johnson. And here we are at number 45. At number 45, we now have Darius Robinson, edge rusher, or Adisa Isaac. Now, Darius Robin grades out just a little bit better than Adisa Isaac. So by all rights, as an edge rusher, we take Darius Robinson with that number 45. And now we have some trade offers and some opportunities to move around by giving up a draft pick later, by taking one today. Let's take one today. Now we have, let's reject just a little bit more here. Now we've got Jalen Polk. We've got Roman Wilson. Remember, we were looking for a receiver at some point that we were going to end up needing. We still needed some defensive tackles, but we got Cedric Van Pran, Granger. We can have 2 centers if you want, but Roman Wilson. Let's go ahead and take him. And then let's get in here and Christian Mahogany. Excuse me. We're going to have to take Jonathan Brooks. He's the best player available at that point. But anyway, so without finishing this off, this is what happens when you move down. At this point, you move down just a little bit, and let's reject that. You have Caleb Williams, you have Jackson Powers Johnson, you have Darius Robinson, and you have Roman Wilson. You've really kind of solved a few of your biggest problems on this team. Having that third wide receiver, Tyler, I don't know how Tyler Scott's going to do, but Caleb Williams, Jackson Powers Johnson, that solves some of your problems. And Darius Robinson is your edge rusher for obvious passing situations. So you're already improved by this, so there's a lot of different things that you can do here in this draft, and it's going to be fascinating to see. So let's see how it all plays out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, consider signing up, by the way, for NordVPN. There's a link in the description down below. It's for my crypto channel, but it's okay. You guys can use it. And by the way, 90 days free. And look, if you are online for any length of time and you don't think that people know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and they're not tracking you, then you are kidding yourself. My crypto wallet got hacked. I lost like $47,000 not that long ago, January of this year. Just like that, it was gone. And if I had NordVPN on at the time, I had moved and was setting up my studio, and I turned it off and disabled it so that I could finish setting up my studio, and I got hacked and they stole close to 50 grand from me. So don't let that happen to you. NordVPN, privacy, security, protection. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to bear down, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. Go Bears.